Peace, love, and balance. The Gnostic Dread here. Today is a video about a topic that I feel is quite interesting and important, and as you'll see, is very relevant to our current situation when it comes to law enforcement and police misconduct. Before we go any further though, I ask that you give a thumbs up to the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that little bell icon so you can get a notification every time I upload a new video. Also, please share this video to Facebook, Twitter, and everywhere it can reach people. I truly feel like this information is important and needs to be known by as many people as possible. So the topic today is dealing with the late Bill Cooper's warning to the masses about how police are to conduct themselves in the 21st century. Where I'm getting this information from is his Hour of the Time radio show that he had throughout the 90s. Yeah, that's how far back this goes. During certain broadcasts of the Hour of the Time, Cooper would dedicate certain episodes to an ongoing series he had called Mystery Babylon. Now, those of you who don't know who Bill Cooper is, he is the author of a book called Behold a Pale Horse, which is a must-read, as it exposes many of the shadow elements within our government and how certain agendas were pushed and are still being pushed to create the global police state being formed around us. I'll leave an affiliate link in the description for all of you to pick it up. I urge all my readers and listeners to read this book. If you have read Behold a Pale Horse before, but haven't checked out this Mystery Babylon series, then I strongly suggest that you listen to this series in its entirety. I personally consider it like the sequel to Behold a Pale Horse, or in the very least, a series that supplements it. As you can see here, this is the entire series transcribed in PDF form. I'll leave a link in the description where you can download the PDF and view it yourself. The great thing about this transcription is that it also provides links to the audio files, so you can listen to the original broadcast yourself. Granted, the audio files in these links aren't the greatest, but they're acceptable. However, I have the complete series with studio quality audio that I will make available to my patrons. Now, the episode we're focusing on today is episode 32, the Aid Abet Newsletter. Bill Cooper originally aired this broadcast on January 3rd, 1994. So again, it's giving you an idea how far back this goes. In this episode, Cooper reads an article that appeared in a newsletter called Aid Abet Police Newsletter, Volume 2, Constitutional Issues for Lawmen. According to the editor of the newsletter, this article was written by a police chief using the pseudonym Rupert Orpheus. Cooper is quick to make note that not only is this person supposedly a police chief, but they are also a high-degree member of the Masonic Lodge. Now, the pseudonym Rupert Orpheus might go over a lot of people's heads, but those of us within occultism and who study the mysteries should immediately have our attentions caught upon hearing Orpheus. Orpheus, of course, being the mystical poet and center of the Orphic mystery school of ancient times. This and other instances within the article, as you shall see soon, would suggest that the author of it does have at least a good degree of occult knowledge, while possibly being somebody within a position of power within the government or the state. Cooper goes on to read the article and shares his thoughts. I'm not going to read Cooper's entire transcription here, but I am going to read to you the original article in its entirety while sharing with you my thoughts about it, along with some of Cooper's thoughts. If you'd like to see or hear all of what Cooper had to say about it though, again, the PDF will be available to you in the description. Now, as you see here, there is a link provided that goes to where the original article was transcribed. Unfortunately, however, when you click on it, you're met with this. So it seems like the website here that was hosting it is in maintenance mode now. Fortunately for us, however, we have the web archive. And by using the web archive, we was able to pull up an earlier capture from before the website went down. I'll leave a link for this capture in the description as well. So now, without any further ado, I'll just go ahead and start reading the article and give you my thoughts about it as I go along. So starting right here off the top. The following is a letter from Police Chief Rupert Orpheus. To the question of, do some judges, prosecutors, and police officers today commit dishonest acts to put criminals away? An answer is an unequivocal yes, but it is hoped that it is not done without just cause. True immorality exists only when the cause is not just. After more than 20 years of service to my fellow Americans, I realize what reality is. The truth is that today, many judges, attorneys, police officials, and officers are devotees to the religion of secular humanism, myself included. Some of our members, mainly out of fear, will not admit that secular humanism is a religion. They are apprehensive that we may be treated as the so-called Christians have been treated under the doctrine of separation of church and state. Such fear might be well founded if this was 15 to 20 years ago. Not so today. Reason being, colleagues of our faith are, for the most part, in control of the agencies and organizations such as the ACLU, ABA, Justice Department, etc., that would normally protest such cases. Although this may at first seem unfair, it is not. But allow me to proceed, and I believe you will come to a full understanding of this and many other important facts. My feelings are that it is time for we shepherds to open the eyes of our flock and further sort out those we cannot take with us into the 21st century. So again, Bill Cooper originally broadcasted his take on this in 1994, at the very beginning of the new year, so that means this article was written even before that, yet they already had a plan to lead the masses, who they see as sheep, Bill Cooper calls them sheeple, into the 21st century where we are today, with themselves being the good shepherds. Pay attention to the language and the symbolism that they use in this article. Any that would deny that our religion of secular humanism is not a valid religion should do their homework. The Supreme Court decided that it was a religion some years ago, in the Torcaso versus Abington, Abington versus Skemp, and in Torcaso versus Watkins cases. According to the High Court, it is belief, not creed or cult, which appears to be the essence of religion. It further explains that belief refers to some sort of universal view of life, of the world of mankind, a belief that is held to be true about mankind. In essence, the Supreme Court said that one's religion can be any worldview with or without reference to God, theistic or non-theistic in nature. I hope this helps others to understand our faith. However, this of course is not the main point of my speech. I wish to address the abuse of police officers who ascribe, knowingly or unknowingly, to the moral tenets of our religion in regards to ethics and morals. Nationwide, our devotees are enduring horrible discrimination at the hands of a very hypocritical faction of society, the Christians. This discrimination comes as we humanists exercise our own religious beliefs and apply our own morals on the job, so to speak. Yet other officers may apply their own individual belief systems, morals, and ethics at will without any condemnation. This is undeniable discrimination. Fortunately, our religion is the fastest growing of any in all of history, and many of the younger generation within the criminal justice system, including police officers who ascribe to sound secular humanist principles, are now in management, which is of benefit to all. This does give us sway power and is a plus for our side. So as you can see here, even in the early 90s, there were already those with this ideology filling management positions within law enforcement. We can only imagine what it's like here in 2019. Now, I personally don't have any real problem with humanism, and I have my own criticisms about religion and Christianity in particular, which I'll elaborate on here in a bit. However, what this supposed police chief is advocating, you'll find is something different than valuing human needs and desires over religious dogma. Pay attention next to what they're calling situation ethics. Still, there is far too much discrimination against those who would apply a most important principle to our religion, situation ethics. The principle of situation ethics allows the individual to focus correctly on only the goal to be accomplished. Morally speaking, little if any consideration need to be given to the method or means, as nothing else supersedes its importance. Of course, concern is given to finding a means of accomplishing a task or goal so as to have the least negative impact on the least amount of our people. Take notice how they say our people. In my youth, I recall hearing the great Green Bay Packers coach, Vince Lombardi, describe it this way. Winning is not everything, it is the only thing. Much of our society lives by this principle today. Yes, even many of those who profess other faiths and occupy pulpits throughout America. Personally, I think the principle of situation ethics is best described by examining the legal definition of ethics and morals given by our now compatriots, the communists. The communist definition is, everything is ethical and moral as long as it promotes world communism. This is pure secular humanism. We can learn much, incidentally, about total commitment from the communists. The Marxists have, out of pragmatic necessity, expurgated a minimum of 90 million people in the pursuit of man's noblest mission, world peace. What intelligent person could call immoral any means used to accomplish this all-important goal? So this is pretty much the idea that the ends justify the means. And apparently, both this police chief and the communists believe that the slaughter of 90 million innocent people under the communist regimes of the 20th century are justified to bring about the ideal society and peace. 2 points I really want to stress here. 1, these people are willing to do anything to further their agendas. Your life means nothing to them. They will kill you, millions of you, if necessary. I'm reading you something from over 25 years ago, which within that time frame, 9/11 has happened, which Bill Cooper also predicted, and also the beginning of the War on Terror, where we go and invade Iraq, and we find out there were no weapons of mass destruction. The way they see it, who cares about the lives lost and the homes destroyed, as long as we can get done what we want to get done here at home and abroad. The second point I want to bring up here is that I find it quite interesting how the writer of this article aligns with the communists. This is the reason why I'm always so critical about the left, because so many within the political arena who sit in positions of power agree with many of these ideologies. For example, don't both Bernie Sanders and AOC both openly identify as socialists? And I'm not suggesting that these two personally agree with the slaughter of innocent people, of course not. But I am saying that the far left does agree and embrace Marxist and socialist ideology, and they push big government. In our Great Humanist Manifesto, signed in 1933 and 1973, we explain our moral creed, which is very much the same as the Marxist creed, yet set forth in much more palatable and tactful terms. Here is a brief summation of our beliefs regarding ethics and truth. Ethics. Moral values derive their source from human experience. Ethics is autonomous and situational, needing no theological or ideological sanction. Ethics stems from human need and interest. To deny this distorts the whole basis of life. We strive for the good life, here and now. Humanist Manifesto to 1973. Authority and truth. We reject those features of traditional religious morality that denies humans the full appreciation of their own potentialities and responsibilities. Traditional religions often offer solace to humans, but as often, they inhibit humans from helping themselves or experiencing their full potentialities. We can discover no divine purpose or providence for the human species. Humans are responsible for what we are or will become. No deity will save us, we must save ourselves. Humanist Manifesto to 1973. After 20 plus years of conditioning, our society now largely subscribes to this philosophy. Some of you, who practice selective Christianity, are closer to our faith than the superstitions of the Bible thumpers of old. In selective Christianity, of course, you choose to believe in and discard the parts that are not convenient. Don't you see that we are just alike? Your faith is actually based on what is right under man's desire. We humanists are in fact more honest. We admit there is no God, that it is only man's desires that are important. You leaders of these selective Christians preach that your faith is based on some part of God's law, but in actuality, the majority of it is based on what feels good and is convenient. Now I have to admit and say that I agree with a lot that we just read. I do believe that while religion can offer some solace, at the same time, it holds so many of us back from experiencing our true potential. I don't believe any deity will come down and save us, but I do believe in a divine order. I personally refer to it as Ma'at, and I believe that the divine spark inside each and every one of us gives us the capacity to save ourselves once we come upon knowledge of self. When it comes to Christianity and Christians, however, the writer of the article is correct. Majority of them are hypocrites. They cherry-pick verses out of the Bible that feels good to them and gloss over the parts that are inconvenient. A great example of this being how certain churches have allowed open homosexuals to have positions of leadership within the church, or better yet, the homosexual who claims to be a Christian, when the Bible clearly denounces homosexuality. I mean, it's better to be gay and not be a Christian than to try to justify being gay and a Christian. You can still believe in God. Christianity nor Abrahamic religion doesn't have some exclusive claim on the matter. But it doesn't benefit you to be gay and then try to fit into a religion that says you're not allowed. And that's pretty much the reason why I even personally view Christianity as being the weak man's religion, the institution of it, because its foundations are very weak. They've allowed so much PC culture to come in, and they cherry pick so many different verses from the Bible instead of just following it to the fullest, that like from the outside looking in, everybody's like, who are you to judge? You know, we all hear that, but you don't hear that about Muslims. And there's the reason why. It's because you won't meet a Muslim that only believes in certain parts of the Quran and throws away other parts of the Quran. I'm not even speaking of people, extremists, who misinterpret the entire Quran and do terrorist acts. That's not what I'm speaking of here. I'm talking about devout worshippers of Allah. They believe in the entire Quran, and they're unapologetic about it. They don't try to make amends. They don't try to be politically correct, and they don't try to apologize for it. Christians, on the other hand, they'll cherry pick things that are convenient for them and then leave out the inconvenient things, but then want to judge you on things that in their morality isn't correct. It's this weak foundation that has allowed the people just pushing this agenda to thrive the way they are, because they're saying, look, you do it, why can't we? And because of this, Christians are a target because of this, as you'll soon see as we continue to read this article. Quite obviously, America's government now operates under the guiding principles of humanism. Deception, lying, cheating, stealing, killing is all moral if it promotes the attainment of our essential goals. This is the true righteousness. A prime example can be seen in the recent war against Iraq. Over 250,000 have lost their lives so far, and more are dying every day, all for the attainment of a higher good, the goal of our great humanist leaders. World peace through world government. Deception, lying, cheating, stealing, killing is all okay as long as it promotes the attainment of the essential goal, which is a totalitarian world government for peace. Where have we seen that before? This New Age teaching is the reason why, for example, a police officer, one of secular humanist persuasion, is likely to risk his very life to save a member of society one moment, and the very next moment take the witness stand and lie in order to win an important case. This is not to be considered immoral, given that the particular standard of ethics upon which such an officer bases his morality, namely, that the end justifies any means. In other words, the higher good principle. Many people still do not understand this. They don't understand that this is why our presidents and their staffs, members of Congress, and host of others with leadership roles in America, lawyers, judges, etc., lie and cheat right alongside our dedicated humanist law enforcers, to repeat, all for the greater good of society, i.e. the system. And that pretty much confirms what I've been saying for a while now, exactly what I said in my Amber Geiger video, that it's all one big cabal. It's the state. Yes, we're talking about the police today, but the police are only the lower level of it. It's all of law enforcement and government as a whole. The state. From your police, to your lawyers, to the judges, to your so-called public defenders that we like to call public pretenders, to our very own congressmen, to our very own president. It's all one big cabal. The state. And they're not out to protect you, despite the fact they're always saying security. They're out to protect the system. And that's the reality of the situation. What the masses must be made to understand, and never be allowed to forget, is that this is for their own good. They should know by now that those who are actually in control of our government, as Colonel Oliver North explained, truly know what's best for the people. They must also know that under the New World Order, the justice system's primary mission is to protect the system from the masses. I just want to repeat that one more time so that it's very clear. It says, under the New World Order, the justice system's primary mission will be to protect the system from the masses. It is precisely in view of this that we on the inside have been obligated all along to use the system to suppress dissenters as quickly as possible, before any radical anti-world government, anti-humanist group can gain the upper hand. You are aware, of course, that the vast majority of Americans seek only peace and security. Those buzzwords again. They hardly even realize that they have virtually made government their new god, to which they turn to for the fulfillment of every need. Our New Age leaders, and we soldiers as the arms and legs, stand ready to give the masses all for which they have prey. And that goes back to an article I've written previously on my website called Deification of the State, where I show that historically, even from ancient times, the state has always seen itself as God. Now, they use the concept of the mystery God to get around directly worshipping the state, but the state has always set itself up to be the supreme power. It's just now in the secular modern world, they can come out and say, there is no God, we're God. So that's the entire idea here. For more on that, look into the description and read the link, Deification of the State. Let me repeat. Our job within the criminal justice system today is to protect the plan, the system, and punish those that our leaders decide are enemies of that system. Of course now, as with our Soviet colleagues, under New Age humanist situation ethics, we are not limited in the methods we may apply to win. We can therefore proceed with unobstructed haste to make the masses safe and peaceful. Let's look again at our example of that police officer who routinely risks his life for others and yet will lie on the witness stand to help his government win some case in court. If some of you are still surprised at this, then perhaps you haven't understood what I've been trying to convey. Nor have you understood what your children have learned so well over the last 20 years within the government school system. It is that we are living in a new age, where man has wisely placed his trust in government instead of some superstition called the divine or God. It is the old religious morals that have caused all our problems. A new age calls for a new belief system, a new moral code, a new religion. Now, at face value, this might seem all fine and dandy for those of us who already aren't fans of religion, but it's obvious that their new religion and new moral code that they're talking about isn't one where we all have knowledge of self and are self-governing each other. No. What they're talking about is they themselves being the supreme power, the state being God, and the new moral code being whatever the state decides is right or wrong. This isn't some enlightened utopia devoid of religious superstition. This is total government control, where the religious zealotry is now focused on the state. It is exciting to see most all of the religions of the world coming nicely together, united in preparation to serve the new world order. We must all dedicate ourselves to obeying our leaders without question and to the instruction of succeeding generations towards our utopian goals of world peace. I would like to introduce you to one present-day scholar, Dr. Sidney Simon, who has been very effective and deserving of much credit for his efforts in this work of re-educating humanity. He speaks plainly, and his meaning is unmistakable, as when he says, "We do not need any more preaching about right and wrong. The old thou shalt not simply are not relevant." He goes on to explain to the child educators he is addressing that values clarification is a method for teachers to change the values of children without getting caught. Values clarification is another term for situation ethics. A book in use by our educators called Weep for Our Children spells out values clarification as part of the new morality. It's okay to lie. It's okay to steal. It's okay to have premarital sex. It's okay to cheat or to kill if these things are part of your value system, and you have clarified these values for yourself. The important thing is not what values you choose, but that you have chosen them yourself freely and without coercion from parents, spouse, priests, friends, minister, or social pressure of any kind. It is such secular humanism proponents in the government schools, the teachers, whom we can thank for remolding the values of these next generations. Yes, folks, and these are the people that you're leaving your children with 5 days out of the week. They spend more time with your children than you do. Consider that. When a government national child care bill is passed, it will be a great day for humanists and proponents of world peace. What wonders we can achieve once we have the attention of the nation's preschoolers for 6 to 9 hours a day. Look what we have already accomplished with the older age groups of America's youth. As I hinted earlier, this new society, based on the deity of man, will demand a new kind of law enforcer. One of our educators said to me some weeks ago, "America's religious zealots of the past would be shocked at the changes that the people have allowed." She was correct, For after all, it was James Madison that said, "We have staked the whole future of American civilization not upon the power of government, far from it. We have staked the future upon the capacity of each and all of us to govern ourselves, to sustain ourselves, according to the 10 Commandments of God." Ah, but it is a new day, and we are fast proceeding into the 21st century. Americans no longer wish to assume the responsibilities of governing themselves. Happily, for them, there is a whole new generation of very dedicated leaders and enforcers in government to see that they are cared for. Those last two paragraphs bring to light a few things. Now, Americans are always going back and forth between, was America founded as a Christian nation or not? Were the forefathers Christian? And talk about the separation of church and state. Which, by the way, in practice, that concept is pretty BS. But back to the point. Regardless of where you stand with that, it is a fact that majority of the early settlers that came here to America were indeed Christians. And majority of the forefathers, in the very least, were deists. Now, if you don't know what deism is, you can look that up, but the point is, they still had some sort of belief in a higher power and divine order and law. And part of that divine order was the fact that we govern ourselves. That was God's gift to us. That was the whole reason that the Pilgrims had left Europe to begin with, to escape religious persecution from the state who thought itself as the supreme power in the religious authority. Having faith and belief in some sort of concept of God or divine order is always going to be the check against a totalitarian government, because the state can never establish itself as the supreme power if God is the supreme power. That's the reason why the left pushes atheism and anti-religious propaganda. It's the reason why all communist regimes are always atheists. When there's no God, the state will take its place. I'm not a Christian. I'm not a Muslim. But as I said earlier, I believe in a divine order and that God dwells in the heart of everyone, just waiting to be discovered for those who's willing to do the soul work. Therefore, no one has supreme authority over anyone. And listen, I'm not here to tell you what's right or wrong. I truly believe you should believe whatever it is that you want to believe. But it's important that you stand for something, or you'll fall for anything. You must stand on your square. That's the only way you're going to be able to fight this. I had said earlier that Christians are targets, and this is the reason why. Because Christians are the religious majority in this country. If they can destroy your faith in God by making Christianity look ridiculous, then the state will succeed at becoming the supreme power. Let me address for a moment the question of police manpower. As the citizens relinquish, out of fear, more of their rights, more enforcers are required to regulate and supervise the people's activities so that they remain safe and peaceful. Who would have thought 100 years ago that the integration of fear of literally everything would have been the answer to establishing the New World Order? Credit for this innovation goes to the free thinkers of the last generation. Now, the older generation, known as peace officers, servants of the people, might not so readily have adopted nor fit into this new order of things. Fortunately, this has not posed too great of a problem, due to the fact that they are rapidly being replaced through natural attrition, i.e., death or retirement. The next 7 or 8 years will see the last of them removed. At the same time, police agencies are of necessity attempting more and more to screen out before hiring those prospective officers who believe in the old religious superstitions. This is wise because these zealots will not do the things that will be required of them under the new system. Those remaining police officers who openly profess a belief system steeped in old world religious fundamentalism can be and are being phased out on any number of charges, such as can be substantiated over time or with the help of a little innovation on the part of new management. Some of the old-time officers complain that this type of job discrimination is unconstitutional and immoral, but we know they are wrong. Under situation ethics, all things are moral as long as they promote the goal. Therefore, they are not being removed for any evil cause. They are incapable and simply non-functional for the duties that will be required of them. I feel I need to say again that if a professional police officer must lie against those who violate the law, then it is moral. The same is true when government judges and attorneys withhold evidence and witnesses from the jury to win their cases. When a politician lies to win an office or makes deals that promote the new order, it is moral. Let me tell you what is truly immoral. I will use the issuance of traffic violations as only one example. True immorality is when 5 out of 10 good upstanding citizens take the witness stand, swear an oath to their God, and then proceed to fabricate lies to get out of their tickets. This our enforcement officers witness daily in court. To them, this is not only immoral, but highly hypocritical. The enforcer's dishonesty helps society as a whole. If a government agent lied for personal reasons, it would be immoral. If done for the betterment of mankind, it is not. And that is the most important lesson I bring you today. It is one thing when a leader or agent of government has to lie or otherwise deceives his subjects. It is quite another when an ordinary individual from among the masses bites the hand that feeds him by lying to those who are bringing salvation in this brave new world. Do we see this important difference? The old world understood that it was the greatest of sins to lie or to deceive God. The generations of devotees that wish to enter the new world must likewise be brought to the understanding that it is the greatest of sins to lie to or deceive their new God, government. Any such disloyalty would surely hamper the progress of those engaged in ushering in the glorious New World Order. We are not concerned with the few who may resist this new order, for out of pragmatic necessity, their fate has been amply allowed for in the master plan. What we are most concerned about at present is that the obedient masses be made to understand that it is detrimental to progress for them to suggest that their supervisors wallow under the pressure and futility of the antique superstitions, morals, and dogmas of the past. There will be some difficult changes facing a person entering this new society. On these issues, however, we can assure the people there will be no compromise. Thank you for listening. May the blessing of the new order come swiftly upon us. So mote it be. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the article. Now again, this article was written way back in the early 90s, sometime before January 1994, and it was written under a pseudonym, Rupert Orpheus. Now you can take it with a grain of salt, but it's the fact that it was still written and published in a police newsletter means that somebody out there had these ideas. And we look around the world today, and it seems like a lot of these ideas are incorporated into our society in 2019. It seems as if as we get further into the 21st century, the state gets larger, people want the state to get larger, oddly, and the police are here to be the enforcers, just like they said they would inside that article. It's just very strange. I've never heard anyone else talk about this article other than Bill Cooper, so it's just interesting. Did Bill Cooper try to warn us about what was coming and it just fell on deaf ears? What are your thoughts about all this? Let me know in the comments below. If you enjoyed the video, please like the video, definitely share it. Again, I really feel it was important for people to get this information. Subscribe to the channel, and I'll be seeing you in the next one. Peace, love, and balance.